The Russo brothers, that's right, the Russo brothers to oversee X-Men reboot after Avengers Secret Wars. So after having already taken over the reins of Avengers 5 and 6, the Russo brothers, this is coming from Superhero Hype, the Russo brothers are reportedly in the running to helm the much-awaited X-Men reboot after directing Avengers Endgame and providing a fitting conclusion to the MCU's Infinity Saga. Joe and Anthony Russo quietly exited the Marvel setup in pursuit of other ventures. However, they made an unexpected, really wasn't unexpected, return to the franchise alongside Robert Downey Jr. at San Diego Comic-Con last year. At the event, Marvel Studios President Kevin Feige confirmed that the duo will be coming back to helm the next two Avengers sequels, Doomsday and Secret Wars. Nevertheless, per the latest rumors, it seems that the Russos will be extending their stay in the MCU even after Secret Wars. According to Daniel RPK, the Russo brothers have already signed a deal to oversee additional projects, including the X-Men reboot at Marvel after the conclusion of its multiverse saga. However, Daniel RPK's latest Patreon update failed to confirm if the Russo brothers will take up the directing responsibilities for the X-Men project. From the looks of it, an effective course correction of the scattered franchise seems to be the motivation behind rehiring the directors. The Russo brothers' roles past Secret Wars may remain under wraps as of now, but Marvel Studios is actively planning to introduce the X-Men into the MCU. So I'm not going to go much further into it because I want to discuss this because I think it's really, really, really interesting here. I talk about the Russo brothers a lot because I think the Russo brothers are one of the reasons why the MCU did so well, but I also think it's one of the reasons why the MCU has failed and struggled so much. And now let me talk on this. Now, if you go back to the MCU early years, they did a really good job with kind of exploring different directors, different visions, different ideas throughout everything. You know, you had your Jon Favreau's, your Josh Whedon's, your James Gunn's, your the guy that did Ant-Man, Peyton Reed's, everything like that. You kind of had your different visions and everything. But once Joe and Anthony Russo came in for Winter Soldier, Civil War, all of that stuff, things got kind of weird because everything got so much smaller. The MCU seemed to be like expanding. It was big. It was like all these different visions, all these different directors coming in, able to put their little stamps on it. But when they came in, everything started to just kind of fall in line and look almost the same and feel the same. And it really felt like one thing. And to me, that kind of hurt the franchise a little bit. Don't get me wrong. Winter Soldier is one of my top two favorite MCU films. Civil War, I'm not a big fan of. I think it's actually one of the worst Marvel films, but we can get into that another time. And Infinity War, Endgame, great films in their own right. But when they left, I felt like, okay, this is an opportunity for them to get back to what they were good at. MCU, that is. And they then faltered. They couldn't. I think that they just got so comfortable with what they were doing, and they just couldn't get back to it. They tried to spread themselves too thin with Kevin Feige, trying to do the TV shows, the movies, what have you, all that, plus all the social movements that were going on, trying to fit their agendas into the social political climate. All of that was going on, and it really hurt them in a lot of ways. So now we sit here today, and they brought Joe and Anthony Russo back. They brought RDJ back, all a ploy simply to get butts into seats, to get asses into seats, to get people excited to once again watch Marvel, to go see Marvel movies again. I get that. But to then possibly, again, this is just a rumor, but to have them attached to continue on again, to me, it almost seems like this is the cheap way to just like, okay, is it Joe and Anthony Russo's Marvel now? Is this how Kevin Feige kind of steps away and backs off? Is he going to be leaving soon? Are they taking over? Like, to me, it kind of seems like maybe Kevin Feige's just had enough of it. Maybe he's just like, hey, maybe we should just let them take over. This also kind of reminds me, if it's not that, and they simply just take over the X-Men stuff. Let's just say that maybe they just oversee the X-Men stuff. and they just watch over the mutants and all of that. They help guide the path for the mutant saga. It reminds me a little bit of what the plans were for James Gunn a number of years ago. If you remember, before he got unceremoniously fired from Marvel, he was being primed to run a galactic side, cosmic side of Marvel. He was going to be running a cosmic side of the MCU where he would be doing movies and stories within the cosmic universe of the MCU. And maybe that's what they decided to do here. Now that, because back then they didn't have the X-Men, there were no plans for the X-Men. So maybe that's what they're going to do here. Maybe Kevin Feige's like, hey, let's bring Joe and Anthony Russo in and have them run the X-Men stuff. I can focus on everything else, and then we'll crash them together for Avengers against X-Men or something in that regard. That's a possibility as well. I don't know. It's just, it seems really bizarre because they were so adamant about leaving Marvel back when they did, because they wanted to go do other projects. Granted, those other projects really didn't turn into anything much. Nothing really big at all came from them. Not that anybody really knows what they are. Like, besides Gray Man that they mentioned in this article here, nobody really knows what other movies that they actually did. So it's really interesting here. You top this off with the other rumor that RDJ is going to stick around as Doctor Doom for the long haul. Maybe this is why. Maybe he's sticking around for the long haul because the Russos are sticking around. Or maybe that's not true, because I don't think it's true, but maybe that's why. I don't know. This is all an interesting topic, and I think I can't wait to see where this goes if it does come to fruition, because again, I like the Russo brothers. I like what they did to a certain point, but I also think it really handcuffed the MCU, because it created the MCU in a way, like I said, it got rid of a lot of the artistic decisions that they were able to make, because everything just became so much like them at that point in time, back in that time frame. The only things that were really exciting were the movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, because it was so different. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you think.